What the hell is she doing?
The magnificent marble lobby of the Vantage Eco Pearl Resort went dead silent as the general manager violently ripped the housekeeping badge from his own wife's uniform. His glamorous PR director mistress laughed aloud, convinced they had just permanently disposed of the trash. They had absolutely no idea that the quiet, dignified woman walking toward the exit held the only signature that could decide the future of the multi-million-dollar empire they proudly called theirs. This is the story of a shattered marriage, a secret ghost trust, and the ultimate payback. The magnificent crystal chandelier of the Vantage Eco Pearl Resort cast a brilliant golden glow over the bustling grand lobby. Tonight was supposed to be a flawless evening, a showcase of unparalleled luxury and extraordinary hospitality for everyone. Instead, it became the stage for my ultimate public humiliation. I, Amara Okafor, stood in my simple, unadorned housekeeping uniform, surrounded by the whispers of wealthy guests and the shocked stares of the staff I had personally trained. Standing directly in front of me was my husband, Victor Easy, the ambitious general manager whose rapid rise to power I had quietly supported. His tailored designer suit stood in stark contrast to my worn apron. His face, usually a mask of charming professionalism, was twisted in cold disdain. "You are completely incompetent, Amara," Victor shouted, intentionally loud enough for the entire reception area to hear clearly. "You do not belong in a place of this caliber. You are fired." With a swift, aggressive motion, he reached out and violently ripped the plastic name badge from my chest. The sharp pin tore a small hole in my uniform, but the physical damage was nothing compared to the deep betrayal radiating from his dark eyes. Just a few steps behind him stood Cynthia Noddy, the newly appointed public relations director. Her vibrant crimson dress hugged her figure perfectly, and a cruel, triumphant smirk played on her perfectly painted lips. She did not even try to hide her immense amusement. To her, I was just a pathetic obstacle that had finally been removed from their glamorous path toward supreme success. Over by the luxury lounge area, Madame Gloria, his cruel mother, casually sipped her expensive champagne. She nodded in quiet approval, having spent years mocking my dedication to the unglamorous night shifts. The silence was deafening. Dozens of bellboys, receptionists, and concierges watched in paralyzed disbelief as their general manager publicly discarded his own loyal wife. Victor folded his arms across his broad chest, standing tall and victorious, waiting for me to break down, scream, or beg for mercy. But I did not give him the satisfaction he desperately craved. I did not shed a single tear today. My face remained perfectly still, a calm mask hiding a violent storm of shattered illusions. I slowly looked at the plastic badge crushed in his powerful hand, then looked directly into his dark, ruthless eyes without saying anything. Without uttering a single word of protest, I turned around and began walking toward the heavy glass exit doors. I walked past the luxurious marble pillars my father had secretly funded. I walked past the intricate floral arrangements I had personally arranged just hours before. I walked past the loyal staff members who lowered their heads in deep sorrow and immense respect. Victor scoffed loudly, firmly believing he had just effortlessly tossed me into the cold, unforgiving storm of unemployment and despair. He truly felt like an absolute king conquering his grand castle. However, the arrogant man had no idea. He had no idea about the monumental secret I currently carried. Tucked safely inside the deep pocket of my modest gray coat was a small sealed cream envelope. The familiar, elegant handwriting of my late father was beautifully inscribed across the front. I had dutifully carried this mysterious envelope for 2 long years, never once daring to break the seal. My father had given it to me on his deathbed with one final cryptic instruction. He weakly whispered that I must only open it on the very exact day they finally showed me their true monstrous colors completely and forever. The cold night air hit my face as I walked away from the dazzling lights of the Vantage Eco Pearl Resort. I did not return to the luxurious master suite I once shared with Victor. Instead, I checked into a cheap motel on the outskirts of Lagos, needing absolute silence. Sitting on the edge of a sagging mattress, my trembling fingers finally broke the wax seal of the cream envelope my late father had entrusted to me. Inside, there was no lengthy letter of explanation, only a heavy black card embossed with a single name and a phone number. It simply read, Barrister Solomon. He kept it safe, It is time. I did not cry or scream. I picked up my phone and dialed the number. Solomon answered on the second ring, sounding remarkably awake for such an ungodly hour, almost as if he had been sitting by the phone for the past 2 years. Mrs. Okafor, his deep voice resonated smoothly through the receiver. I have been wondering when this exact call would finally come. Listen to me carefully. Do not sign a single document Victor puts in front of you. Come to my private office first thing in the morning. When the sun rose, I found myself sitting in Solomon's quiet, wooden office. The chaotic noise of the city felt miles away. He placed a remarkably thick, leather folder onto his mahogany desk, but did not open it immediately. He looked at me with a profound sadness. Your father did not leave you a simple inheritance. Amara, he began softly. My heart dropped, anticipating bad news. Then what did he leave me? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. He tapped the heavy folder. He left you a ghost trust. Cash runs out. A trust holds permanent power, physical buildings, operating companies, and absolute control. Solomon leaned forward, his eyes locking onto mine. This must be handled like a crime scene, not a petty domestic revenge plot. One careful step at a time, he slowly slid a single piece of paper across the desk. At the very top, printed in bold ink, was a corporate holding name, Vantage Heritage Trust. Read that name and memorize it, Solomon instructed quietly. Your father founded this trust. He built the very foundation of the resort before you were even born. He purposely kept his name off the shiny brass plaques. He wanted to observe who would remain kind when they thought absolutely no one important was watching. Solomon turned the page. Vantage owns the resort, and you, Amara, are the sole named successor. When this trust activates today, you control every single brick. The room went completely still. I own the resort? I asked slowly, the reality crashing down on me. The exact same place he just fired me from? You own the very marble floor Victor is currently standing on, Solomon confirmed with a sharp, dangerous smile. He just does not know it yet. Victor is aggressively trying to sell the exclusive oceanfront villas to a foreign conglomerate. That massive deal absolutely cannot close without your official signature. To bypass you, he has been forging legal documents. Forging? That is a serious felony, I gasped. Exactly. Solomon solemnly nodded, closing the thick folder. This situation is no longer just a simple divorce. It is now a severe corporate fraud. However, we must patiently wait. We will let the arrogant man confidently reach for the ultimate crown in front of absolutely everyone. When he thinks he has finally won everything, we will quietly take it all away. Go home now. Amara. The days following my sudden dismissal were a masterclass in psychological warfare. Victor did not just want me out of the luxurious Vantage Echo Pearl Resort, he wanted me completely erased from our life. Sitting in my dimly lit motel room, I meticulously gathered every piece of evidence. The first strange anomaly was a massive bank alert. A premium credit card had been secretly opened under my name, and $20,000 was already recklessly spent on designer jewelry and lavish dinners. I immediately brought the printed statements to Barrister Solomon. He examined the fraudulent charges with cold, calculating eyes. Someone in your own house opened this, Solomon stated, tapping the paper. Why would Victor intentionally run up massive debt in my name? I asked, feeling a cold dread creeping into my stomach. To paint a very specific picture, Solomon explained grimly. A financially reckless, mentally unstable wife is infinitely easier to divorce. It makes pushing you out of any legal proceedings effortless. He carefully placed the bank statements into our growing evidence file. Do not confront him yet. Keep documenting. The next devastating blow came directly from the courthouse. Victor ruthlessly filed for expedited divorce, but that was not the worst part. He filed for sole custody of our precious young daughter, Ada. His legal papers maliciously described me as a completely unhinged woman suffering a severe public breakdown, drowning in secret debt, and fundamentally unfit to raise a child. He was meticulously building a false narrative brick by brick. I read the custody papers at the wooden desk, my hands shaking with an intense, burning rage. "He is cruelly using my innocent daughter as a vicious weapon against me," I whispered, desperately fighting back bitter tears of sheer anger. "I know," Solomon replied gently, offering a reassuring nod. "And that is the exact fatal mistake that will completely destroy him. Your father anticipated this exact kind of ruthless greed." Solomon opened a heavy leather book. "The trust contains a specific ironclad clause your husband never read. Any successor who is maliciously attacked through their own child forfeits absolutely nothing. However, the attacker immediately forfeits every single asset held jointly in the marriage." Meanwhile, Cynthia boldly made her first public move. She proudly posted a glossy photo on social media, standing in the master bedroom of my home. Her caption smugly read, "Beautiful spaces feel so much better once the outdated past is finally removed." The entire resort staff saw it. The malicious whispers rapidly spread. The false narrative was perfectly set. I was the discarded past, and she was the glittering future. I did not scream. I calmly screenshotted the post, forwarded it to Solomon, and typed a single word: evidence. Victor submitted the forged expansion contracts to the foreign investors today. Solomon informed me over the phone later that evening. He believes the massive deal is officially done. The board is hosting the annual foundation gala tomorrow night to publicly celebrate the monumental sale and announce his promotion to regional director. "The gala?" I asked, a cold smile forming on my lips. "Yes. The exact same gala where the Vantage Heritage Trust succession must be legally read aloud once a year in front of the entire board. Bring little Ada to my secure estate for her absolute protection. Then, I want you to go out and buy yourself the most elegant black dress you can find. It is finally time to step out of the shadows. We are going to completely crash their perfect celebration tomorrow night and officially take back your rightful empire." The gala. Tonight, the grand ballroom of the Vantage Eco Pearl Resort was a breathtaking vision of gold light, sparkling crystal chandeliers, and long, elegant banquet tables. Every single important corporate face in the bustling city was officially present. At the front of the luxurious room, Victor stood proudly with Cynthia clinging tightly to his strong arm, while Madame Gloria smiled radiantly at his side. He delivered a highly charismatic speech about the bright future, flashing a deeply confident smile as if he already owned the entire world. He was completely blind to the silent storm rapidly approaching. He did not see me enter the room. I wore a stunning, elegant black dress. I wore absolute calm. I carried a slim leather folder and absolutely nothing else. The heavy applause slowly faded as the elderly board chairman confidently stepped up to the silver microphone for the yearly meeting of the trust. Everyone present falsely assumed this was just a boring, mandatory legal formality before the real celebration could finally continue. As legally required, the chairman formally began, his voice echoing loudly. "We must officially confirm the controlling successor of the Vantage Heritage Trust, the ultimate owner of this magnificent resort." Victor chuckled arrogantly to a wealthy investor standing beside him. He truly thought it was just meaningless background noise. "The sole controlling successor," the chairman announced clearly, "is Mrs. Amara Okafor." The entire massive room turned simultaneously. Victor immediately stopped smiling. His face went completely pale. I walked to the front of the ballroom with slow, measured steps. The crowd parted for me. I took the microphone from the chairman with a perfectly steady hand. "Good evening," I said softly, yet my voice commanded absolute silence. "Some of you watched my husband violently tear the housekeeping badge from my chest just last week. You watched him loudly declare that I did not belong in his prestigious hotel. I let the heavy silence sit for a moment. It was never his hotel. My late father built this entire empire. My father left it to me. Every single marble wall Victor leans against, I own." Madame Gloria gasped, her arrogant face turning a sickly shade of gray. "You cannot do this," Victor stammered, stepping forward in sheer panic. "You cannot." "I certainly can," I replied coldly. "And your massive real estate deal, the very one you sold our marriage for, absolutely cannot close without my official signature. I will not be signing it. The ballroom erupted in shocked whispers, but the true devastation was just beginning. Barrister Solomon calmly stepped up to the microphone next, opening my slim leather folder. There is much more, Solomon announced sharply. The lucrative expansion contracts Victor Eze recently submitted to the foreign investors carry a signature from the Vantage successor. However, that successor never signed them. Solomon held up the documents for the entire board to see clearly. These important legal documents are entirely forged. This is no longer a private family matter. This is a severe corporate felony. For a long heartbeat, the luxurious ballroom completely forgot how to breathe. Chairs scraped softly across the polished floor as influential members of the resort board slowly rose to their feet one by one. They stared at Victor in absolute disgust, seeing the fake king for the miserable criminal he truly was. The wealthy foreign investors quietly backed away, shaking their heads in profound disappointment. Cynthia immediately dropped Victor's arm, stepping quickly back into the dark shadows to ruthlessly save herself. The arrogant man was now drowning in lies. He had nothing left to steal. The fallout, the immediate aftermath of the foundation gala was swift and devastating for my former husband. 2 resort security officers walked forward with unwavering calm, their faces completely devoid of any sympathy. By direct order of the board, his executive access was immediately revoked, his company email deactivated, and his building privileges permanently disabled. He desperately reached for the silver microphone, begging for just one final chance to explain his desperate actions, but the elderly chairman firmly blocked him. The exact same loyal staff members who had watched me walk out in deep humiliation just a week prior now silently watched Victor get escorted out of the grand ballroom in absolute disgrace. He lost his lucrative promotion, his powerful position, and ultimately, his freedom. As Victor was forcibly led toward the lobby, 2 local police detectives suddenly blocked the main exit. The severe corporate fraud investigation had already begun. They read him his rights aloud under the sparkling crystal chandelier. The heavy steel handcuffs clicked loudly around his wrists, echoing through the silent, luxurious space he once ruled. Cynthia did not hesitate. She immediately approached the detectives, aggressively offering to testify against him during the upcoming criminal trial. She handed over her phone, smoothly walking away entirely clean, to easily find her next wealthy target. Victor watched his glamorous mistress abandon him without a single backward glance, his arrogant face draining of all remaining color. In a final, pathetic act of desperation, Victor desperately shouted across the marble floor, threatening me with the ongoing custody battle for our young daughter, Ada. He viciously claimed he would take her away forever. Barrister Solomon simply shook his head, offering a dark, pitying smile. Solomon loudly reminded him of the ironclad trust clause. Because Victor had maliciously attempted to weaponize our innocent child against the rightful successor, the penalty clause automatically activated. He was instantly stripped of every single shared marital asset. He did not just lose the massive real estate deal tonight. He had successfully signed away his entire life. Victor collapsed onto his knees, physically unable to support the crushing weight of his absolute ruin. As the remaining wealthy guests quietly dispersed into the cool night air, Madame Gloria stood entirely alone near the abandoned stage. For the first time in over a decade, there was absolutely no arrogant pride left on her aging, wrinkled face. The cruel woman who had constantly mocked my simple housekeeping uniform now looked incredibly small and utterly defeated. She slowly walked toward me, her manicured hands trembling visibly under the bright lights. She finally lowered her proud eyes and softly admitted that she had been entirely wrong all along. She tearfully confessed that she had foolishly judged me by my humble title instead of my loyal, dedicated heart. She shamelessly begged for my forgiveness, hoping to salvage some connection to the immense wealth I now controlled. I looked down at her with absolute peace. I felt no lingering anger, only a profound sense of permanent closure. I did not raise my voice or offer any false comfort. My father spent his entire life watching how people treated those who could do absolutely nothing for them, I said softly, ensuring every single word cut deep. He was rarely disappointed by the ugly truth. You showed me exactly who you are, Gloria, and I will never forget it. I offered her a small, respectful nod and simply walked away, leaving her to drown entirely in her own bitter regrets. The night was finally over, and my new chapter had just beautifully begun right now. 15 years had passed since that unforgettable gala, and the Vantage Echo Pearl Resort had completely transformed under my careful guidance. It was no longer just a playground for the incredibly wealthy, but a thriving sanctuary of genuine hospitality and profound human connection. The morning sun cast a brilliant golden glow across the meticulously polished marble floors of the grand lobby, warming the magnificent space. I stood near the massive arched windows, watching the newest class of eager hospitality students arrive at the Vantage Heritage Academy. Among them was my beautiful daughter, Ada, now a brilliant young woman ready to begin her own extraordinary journey from the bottom. I had explicitly forbidden her from taking any shortcuts. She would learn every single demanding task just as I once had. She wore a simple, unadorned uniform, carrying a mop and bucket with the exact same quiet dignity I had carried years ago. Over the years, the bitter memories of Victor Ize and his cruel betrayal had slowly faded into nothingness, leaving no lingering pain. He was currently serving the final years of his lengthy prison sentence, completely forgotten by the glamorous corporate world he worshipped. Madame Gloria had passed away in utter isolation, her arrogant pride providing absolutely no comfort during her lonely, pathetic final days. Cynthia had vanished into the chaotic city, constantly chasing fleeting wealth, until her youthful charm inevitably faded into bitter, cold obscurity. Their dark shadows could no longer reach the vibrant, beautiful world I had successfully built using my beloved father's powerful ghost trust. Barrister Solomon recently retired, handing his heavy leather folders to a trusted protege, knowing the massive empire was finally in safe hands. I slowly walked toward the reception area, where the framed photograph of my late father still hung proudly above the brass plaque. I reached into the deep pocket of my tailored navy blazer and pulled out the small, familiar cream envelope with the broken seal. It was empty now, but its profound meaning remained etched into the very foundation of this towering, billion-dollar coastal property. Ada finished her initial orientation and walked over to me, her bright eyes shining with a mixture of excitement and deep respect. "Are you ready for your first real shift, Ada?" I asked softly, gently placing my hand on her strong, capable young shoulder. "I am entirely ready, Mother," she replied confidently, looking directly at the bustling grand lobby with a determined, unwavering, and peaceful gaze. "Always remember our absolute core philosophy," I reminded her, ensuring my words carried the immense weight of our shared, triumphant family history. "We never judge anyone by their temporary title or their expensive clothes. We quietly watch to see who will truly remain kind." Ada smiled, nodding in perfect understanding. She turned around and walked toward the busy service corridors, blending seamlessly into the dedicated staff. I watched her go, feeling an overwhelming sense of absolute peace and profound satisfaction settling deep within my completely healed, joyful heart. The shattered marriage that once threatened to destroy me had instead unexpectedly forged me into an unstoppable, compassionate, and fiercely protective leader. My father's brilliant, secret strategy had worked flawlessly, protecting his precious legacy while simultaneously exposing the toxic greed of those around me. I took one last look at the pristine marble floor where Victor had once violently ripped the plastic name badge from my chest. That pathetic, arrogant man was completely gone, but the incredibly powerful queen he foolishly underestimated was now permanently here to proudly stay. Our extraordinary story was now completely and beautifully finished today. Forever.